Karen was a dedicated homeowner in a quiet suburban neighborhood. Each morning, she took pride in her home, tending to her flower beds and keeping her lawn neatly trimmed. She loved how her street looked, lined with charming houses and well-kept yards. But there was one thing that bothered her more than anything else: the old, rusty sedan parked across the street. The car had seen better days. Its faded paint was chipped and dull, while patches of rusty metal peeked through like sad reminders of its past. Every time Karen looked out her window, there it was, an unwelcome sight that made her cringe. In her mind, the sedan wasn't just an eyesore, it was a threat to property values in the neighborhood. If potential buyers drove by and saw that clunker, they might think twice before making an offer. Finally, frustration got the best of her. After many sleepless nights thinking of how to fix the situation, Karen decided to voice her concerns. She sat down with a notepad and carefully wrote a note addressed to her neighbor. In it, she described how much she loved living in their community and how important it was for everyone to contribute to its beauty. With a firm hand, she labeled the old sedan an eyesore and urged the neighbor to consider getting rid of it. Feeling relieved after expressing her thoughts, Karen placed the note in her neighbor's mailbox with high hopes that they would act quickly. Little did she know, this would spark a chain of events that would completely change everything, not just for her but for the entire neighborhood as well. Karen sat at her kitchen table, staring at a blank piece of paper. The morning sun streamed through the window, casting a warm glow around her, but her mind was heavy with thoughts about the rusty sedan. Frustration bubbled inside her as she thought about what it meant for her neighborhood. She picked up a pen and began to write. "Dear neighbor," she wrote, her hand trembling slightly with each stroke. "I hope this note finds you well." Karen took a deep breath, trying to find the right words. She poured her heart into the note, explaining how much she loved their community and how important it was for everyone to maintain their homes. "The old sedan parked across the street is becoming an eyesore," she continued, emphasizing how it affected the beauty of their street and could hurt property values. As she wrote, images of potential buyers driving by flashed in her mind. Would they see the clunky car and think twice about making an offer on one of the lovely homes? That thought made her heart race with anxiety. Karen wanted to protect not only her home but also those of her neighbors. After finishing the note, she carefully read it over, ensuring it sounded polite yet firm. Satisfied with her words, she folded the paper neatly and placed it in an envelope. With a determined expression, she walked outside to deliver it to her neighbor's mailbox. As she dropped the envelope inside, a sense of relief washed over her. Karen hoped that her neighbor would understand her concerns and take action. Little did she know that her efforts would lead to an unexpected and colorful response that would turn her quiet street upside down. When the neighbor, named Greg, found Karen's note tucked away in his mailbox, he felt a mix of amusement and disbelief. He had grown fond of that old sedan, rusty as it was, and saw it as part of his character, a little quirk of his life that added flavor to the street. Instead of feeling ashamed or compelled to hide the car, Greg decided to respond in a way that would not only surprise Karen but also turn her complaint upside down. That weekend, with a sparkle in his eye, Greg went to a local wrap shop. He shared his idea with the workers there, describing his desire to transform the clunker from a seemingly forgotten relic into a gleaming spectacle. They took on the project with enthusiasm, excited to see how an ordinary old car could become something extraordinary. By the end of the day, the sedan was transformed. It gleamed with shiny gold chrome vinyl that reflected sunlight like a mirror. Bold racing stripes in vibrant red and blue snaked down the sides, giving the once dull car a striking new look. Greg stood back, admiring the completed work. The car looked almost regal now, a sharp contrast to its previous state. Once he parked it right in front of Karen's house, he couldn't help but chuckle at the irony. He imagined her reaction when she saw it. Soon, curious neighbors began to gather around, whispering and pointing in delight at the gleaming sedan. As word spread, tourists started showing up with cameras, eager to snap photos of the newfound attraction. Little did Karen know that instead of diminishing property values, her complaint had led to an unexpected burst of vibrancy on their quiet street. As the sun rose the next morning, a buzz of excitement rippled through the neighborhood. The once plain street was now graced by Greg's dazzling sedan, and word had spread quickly about its transformation. Curious neighbors peeked out of their windows, drawn by the sight of the flamboyant vehicle gleaming in the sunlight right in front of Karen's house. Within hours, a small crowd began to gather around the car. Children pointed and laughed in delight, while adults snapped pictures with their smartphones, capturing the unexpected spectacle. The bold gold chrome shone like liquid sunshine, reflecting the world around it, while the racing stripes added a fun and dynamic flair. It wasn't just a car anymore, it was a conversation piece that sparked joy among everyone who passed by. Social media soon caught fire as people began posting photos online, tagging their friends and inviting them to come see the new tourist attraction in town. Locals affectionately dubbed it the Golden Wonder, and hashtags started trending across various platforms. Tourists traveling through the area were lured in by these posts, eager to witness for themselves the quirky sight that had turned their quiet neighborhood into a lively spot on the map. As tourists began arriving in droves, local businesses started benefiting too. Coffee shops and snack stands saw an increase in customers as people stopped for refreshments after visiting Greg's shiny creation. Karen watched from her window, initially fuming at what she deemed an absurd situation. But as laughter filled the air and families posed for photos beside the Golden Wonder, she felt an unexpected twinge of curiosity. Little did she know that this vibrant turn of events would soon challenge her perceptions about beauty and value in her beloved neighborhood. As the days went by, Karen could hardly believe her eyes. What she thought would be a simple plea to improve her neighborhood had spiraled into a spectacle she never anticipated. Each morning, she would look out her window, expecting to see the rusty sedan gone, but instead, it seemed to grow even more popular. The car, now a glimmering gold beacon, attracted crowds day after day. Tourists flocked from neighboring towns, cameras in hand, eager to pose with the Golden Wonder. Families took turns snapping pictures while children squealed in delight at the vibrant colors. Karen's quiet street was filled with laughter and chatter, with strangers mingling and sharing stories about their visits. She felt trapped in her own home, watching this whirlwind of activity unfold right outside her window. The local businesses thrived as well. Coffee shops set up outdoor seating where customers enjoyed their drinks while gazing at the spectacle. Karen overheard neighbors chatting about how exciting it was for the community to have such an attraction. They praised Greg for his creativity and expressed admiration for how he had turned a nuisance into something extraordinary. Every time Karen stepped outside, she felt the weight of her initial complaint pressing down on her. Instead of bolstering the neighborhood's appeal, her actions had led to a festive atmosphere that celebrated uniqueness and quirkiness. She couldn't help but feel a mix of frustration and intrigue at how quickly she had been proven wrong. As she watched tourists take selfies in front of the car, Karen began to wonder if maybe there was beauty in the unexpected. Perhaps it wasn't just about sleek lawns and pristine facades, maybe the heart of community lay in embracing differences and celebrating them together. Little by little, her views on aesthetics began to shift, setting the stage for her own transformation. Despite the lively energy that the Golden Wonder had brought to her street, Karen's frustration continued to simmer. Each day she watched as the crowds grew larger, and the laughter of tourists echoed in her ears, contrasting sharply with her own irritation. To her, the flashy car was still an eyesore, an unwanted reminder of her failed attempt to improve the neighborhood. One evening, feeling overwhelmed by the noise and the sheer volume of people outside her home, she decided it was time for action. Karen was convinced that there must be some city ordinance regarding garish vehicles or public displays. Surely, a gold chrome car with racing stripes couldn't be legal. Determined to show Greg that his colorful creation belonged nowhere near her quiet street, she turned to the local government website and began searching for ordinances about vehicle appearance. After sifting through pages of regulations, she discovered a contact number for city officials who handled complaints about property issues. Her heart raced with a mix of hope and determination as she penned a detailed complaint letter outlining why she believed Greg's flashy car could be seen as a nuisance. In her mind, she pictured city workers arriving to assess the situation and agreeing with her viewpoint. With a sense of accomplishment, Karen mailed off her complaint the next morning. She felt empowered, believing she was taking a stand for her neighborhood and returning it to its refined charm. However, deep inside, a sliver of doubt crept in. What if their response didn't match her expectations? As days passed without word from the city officials, anticipation turned to anxiety. Gradually, Karen began to question whether her actions would truly lead to change or if they would just deepen the divide in their community. Days turned into a week, and Karen found herself anxiously awaiting a response from the city officials. She had envisioned a team arriving to assess the situation, equipped with authority to enforce her view of neighborhood standards. However, the silence only grew louder each day, fueling her frustration. Finally, she decided to take matters into her own hands. Karen reached out to the city clerk's office, hoping to find clarity on the laws surrounding vehicle appearance. She was transferred from one department to another until she finally spoke to an official knowledgeable about local regulations. As she described her concerns, she noticed a hint of amusement in the official's voice. "Ma'am," they began gently, "there are no restrictions on how a vehicle can be wrapped or decorated as long as it's registered and not leaking fluids." Karen felt her heart sink as she listened. The official continued, explaining that Greg's flashy car was not only legal but also fell well within the bounds of personal expression. After hanging up the phone, Karen leaned back in her chair, trying to process the information. The very complaint she had filed, grounded in her belief that the car was an eyesore and harmed property values, had no legal basis. It became painfully clear, there was nothing she could do to remove the Golden Wonder. Instead of feeling empowered by her actions, Karen felt defeated. The vibrant car that sparked joy in others had also become a symbol of her own limitations. As she gazed out her window at the throngs of tourists still flocking to admire Greg's creation, Karen realized that her vision of beauty and order had been challenged in ways she never expected. With no legal grounds for her complaint and conflicting feelings swirling within her, she was left questioning what it truly meant to be part of a community. As the days passed, something remarkable began to happen in Karen's neighborhood. What she once saw as a nuisance transformed into a quirky attraction that brought the community together. Locals and tourists alike embraced the Golden Wonder, and its presence became a source of pride rather than embarrassment. Families flocked to take photos and share their experiences online, often tagging local businesses in their posts. The vibrant car sparked conversations among visitors who gathered to admire its shiny exterior, and soon enough, it wasn't just Greg's car that drew attention, the entire street became a lively hub of activity. Neighbors began to host small gatherings and impromptu events, celebrating the unexpected joy that the car brought to their lives. Local businesses started to thrive from the foot traffic generated by the curious crowds. The coffee shop at the corner, which had once struggled to attract customers, now thrived as people stopped for drinks before heading over to see the Golden Wonder. Ice cream trucks rolled in, selling treats to children excitedly running around. Even the small bookstore nearby saw an uptick in sales as families made a day out of visiting the area. Karen watched this transformation unfold with mixed feelings. While she still had her reservations about the flashy car, she couldn't deny the positive impact it was having on her community. Laughter and chatter filled the air where there had once been silence, and neighbors who rarely spoke were now bonding over shared experiences. As she stood at her window, watching families enjoy their time together, Karen began to understand that beauty could come in many forms. It wasn't just about manicured lawns or polished exteriors, it was also about creativity, connection, and embracing the quirks that made their neighborhood unique. With each passing day, her perspective continued to shift, nudging her further away from her initial frustrations toward a newfound appreciation for the vibrant life unfolding right outside her door. As time passed, Karen found herself increasingly drawn to the vibrant atmosphere that surrounded the Golden Wonder. She did her best to avoid it at first, keeping her curtains drawn and focusing on her daily routine. But with laughter and excitement spilling into her home from the streets, it became harder to ignore. Eventually, curiosity got the better of her. One sunny afternoon, she decided to step outside for a breath of fresh air. As she made her way down the driveway, she couldn't help but notice groups of families enjoying their time together, children laughing as they posed in front of the car, couples chatting about their day, and neighbors engaging in light-hearted conversations. The lively scene was a stark contrast to the silence that had once enveloped her street. Karen felt a shift within herself as she stood there, watching people embrace Greg's creation with open arms. She realized that while she had once fixed her gaze solely on the car's flashy appearance, it had instead become a symbol of togetherness and happiness for those around her. The energy that filled the street was contagious. She found herself smiling as she observed strangers bonding over shared experiences. In that moment of clarity, Karen let go of her frustrations. It became evident that beauty could be found in unexpected places and expressions. Greg's sedan had sparked a transformation in more than just the vehicle, it had breathed life into their community. She caught glimpses of familiar faces sharing laughs and newcomers creating memories among them. Accepting this change allowed her to appreciate the quirky charm that had emerged in her neighborhood. Karen understood now that perspective could change everything. What she once viewed as an eyesore was now a beloved landmark that brought joy to people's lives, hers included. Inspired by this revelation, Karen resolved to step further out of her comfort zone, eager to embrace the renewed spirit of camaraderie blossoming right before her eyes. Karen's journey through frustration and acceptance had taught her a valuable lesson about the power of perspective. As she reflected on the changes that had unfolded in her neighborhood, it became clear that sometimes, unexpected transformations could lead to surprising benefits. The Golden Wonder, once viewed as a nuisance, had not only brightened the street but also breathed new life into the community. Families were now gathering outside to share stories and laughter, fostering connections that would have never happened otherwise. Local businesses thrived thanks to the influx of visitors, reinvigorating the neighborhood economy. Karen felt a sense of warmth when she saw neighbors, once strangers, coming together to celebrate what made their community unique. Instead of feeling isolated in her home, she began to participate in the gatherings and activities inspired by the colorful car. She found herself striking up conversations with others who had different views on beauty and art, realizing that diversity in perspectives was what made life interesting. The growing camaraderie among residents filled her with hope, not just for her neighborhood but also for herself. Through her experiences with the Golden Wonder, Karen learned to embrace uniqueness. She came to understand that beauty can be found in the most unexpected places, whether through a quirky car or the joyful interactions among neighbors. This newfound appreciation invited her to be more open-minded and accepting of differences in others. In closing, Karen recognized that change could be challenging, but by welcoming it with an open heart, wonderful opportunities could arise. She felt grateful for the lessons learned and the connections made, and with a smile, she vowed to continue celebrating the vibrant spirit of her community, no matter how unconventional it may appear. Embracing uniqueness had become a guiding principle in her life, one that she hoped would inspire others to see the beauty in every corner of their world.